Hi guys, in this video section we are going to look into how we can host one simple web application or a website on the EC2 instance. And with this demo we are going to learn about some concepts related to the security group as well. So I have already created one instance which is a Linux instance, the t2.micro, and I have given the name of the instance as app instance. Now I'm going to connect to that instance using the EC2 instance connect or the web connect option. So how do we connect to the Linux instance? We just have to go to the connect button, click on it. The default username is going to be EC2-user. Again, click on connect. And now we get into the shell with the help of the web connect or the EC2 instance connect. Let's wait for the connectivity. So now you can see that I have connected to one of the EC2 instance, logged in as a default user, which is the EC2-user. Now this default user, EC2-user, has limited permissions. So if I have to run any command on this Linux instance, I have to use sudo as a prefix. Let's say if I install anything, if I install any kind of a package, then I need to type sudo yum install. So for every command, there has to be sudo as a prefix because sudo gives the permissions. In case if you have the full access of your Linux instance, then you can move your user credentials from EC2-user to the root user credentials. And how you can do? You just have to type sudo space su. Su stands for super user. Guys, if you know some basics of Linux, it will be an advantage. Otherwise, I would be putting up 3 or 4 commands on the Linux instance, which will be the Linux commands, and you can memorize them. I'll explain what exactly those commands, what are the functionalities of the commands that I put on the EC2 instance. So sudo su is going to move my user credentials from EC2-user to the root user. Let's execute it. And here you go. You can see it has now moved me to the root user credentials. Now the root user permissions. And for running any command on this Linux instance as a root user, I don't have to put sudo as a prefix. Alright. Now the next thing is, this is a plain Linux operating system running on this EC2 instance. We need to install the Apache or the HTTPD packages that would support our website or that would host our web application. So how we can install the HTTPD packages? The command is yum install HTTPD. Yum is a command to access some Linux repositories. Install is the instructions of installing an HTTPD packages from the yum repository. So what the Linux is going to do, it is going to access the yum repository on the internet, and then it is going to pull HTTPD packages and install it on our server or the Linux server. Let's execute this command, and here just press Y for yes, and it will install all the HTTPD packages or the Apache packages. Now this HTTPD packages are required because this supports our application. It's a middleware kind of a thing. Alright. Now the next thing is, right now we are in the EC2-user directory. Directories on the Linux are those places where the files are stored. With the installation of the HTTPD packages, there is a default HTML directory that is created, and we need to now move to the HTML directory to create a file where our web page code will be residing. So first task is to move from the EC2-user directory to the HTML directory, and the command is cd stands for change directory space / var www HTML. We need to move to the HTML directory. So this is a constant path for moving to the HTML directory after installing the HTTPD packages. I'll just execute this command and you would see that from EC2-user I've been moved to HTML directory. Now in this HTML directory, I would create one file which will be my web page, and the first main file is going to be the index.html file. Even I can create an index.php file also in case if I write my code in the PHP language. It is up to you. So I'm going to create one index.html file, and let's see how we can work on it. So I'm into the HTML directory, and now here I'm going to create one file, and that is going to be the index.html file, which is the main HTML file for our web page. So how we can create a file inside the directory? We just have to type a command nano. Nano is primarily used for creating the files on the Linux. Instead of nano, sometimes some people use VI also. VI is a file editor. So it is up to you whether you want to use a nano or you want to use VI as an editor. So I prefer to use nano. I'll just type nano and the file name, which is going to be index.html file. Make sure that you always use or always create index.html file first. So the index.html file name has to be in the same way. Now we are going to execute this command, and you would see that index.html file will open. So this is a file, and we are into the editor mode of a file or the edit mode of a file. Now what we need to do in this index.html file, we need to add our HTML code. If you know HTML, you can write your HTML code. In case if you create an index.php file instead of HTML, you can write a PHP code here. Otherwise, what you can do is from the internet, you can get some sample HTML codes. So one of the sites from where you can get the sample HTML codes is htmlbestcodes.com. When you open up the site, you get the HTML codes. So from here, you can pick up any design which you want to be published on your website. So let's say I take this one, fading trailer circle spinner, and you get the code here, the HTML code. We don't have to understand the HTML code. What we need to do, we just have to copy the code, because here we are to understand the working of the EC2 instance and how we can host some kind of an applications in a real-time environment. So I'll just copy the code, go to the index.html page or the index.html file, and paste the HTML code. Now, after pasting the HTML code, we need to exit from this HTML file. And how we can exit from this HTML file? You can see here, you need to press Ctrl and X together to exit. So you have to do you have to press Ctrl and X key together. Then you need to press Y to save the changes that you have done in the index.html file. So press Y and then press the Enter key. Now we are back to the HTML directory. And in case if you want to verify whether the index.html file is created, what you can do, you can type a command ls. ls stands for listing the files in the directory. So when you type the command ls, it will show you that in this HTML directory, there is one index.html file. In case if you want to view, if you want to read this index.html file without making any changes, what you can do, you can type a command cat space and the file name index.html. Now this cat command is primarily used to read or view the file only, or the code inside the file. So when I execute it, you will see that you can read the code inside the index.html file. But you cannot make any changes in this file because it's not an editor. Now the final thing that we need to do it on the instance is we need to restart the HTTPD packages, which is the Apache, so that whatever the file changes we have done, it becomes active. So how we can restart the HTTPD packages? We just have to type a command service HTTPD restart, and it will restart the Apache or the HTTPD packages. That's it. So from the instance perspective, our work is done. Our file is created. The code inside the file is live. Our application, our website or a web application is hosted on the EC2 instance. Now the next task is to test that functionality. Now I have exit from the shell, and we are back to the AWS console. Open up the instance on which we have created the index.html file. And now we are going to test the functionality. So what I'll do, I'll just select the instance, copy the public IP of the instance. You can copy the public DNS also and paste it on the browser window just to check whether we are able to get the web page or not. So here you would find that it is searching for the web page, but it will throw an error. What is the reason? The reason is because now we are sending the HTTP package. We are sending the HTTP traffic on our instance for accessing the HTTP or the web page. But right now on our instance, the security group doesn't allow any type of an HTTP traffic because the port is not open. We just opened the SSH port when we created the instance. So what we need to do, in the security group of the instance, on the inbound rule, we need to open up the HTTP port for the internet traffic. Then only we'll be able to view our web page. So how we can do that? We'll go to the instance, go to the security, look for the security group, open the security group in a new tab, look for the inbound rules in the security group. Let's wait for it. We don't have to focus on the outbound rules. We just have to look into the inbound rule. And here you can see we only have the SSH port open for all the IP addresses on the internet. And that's the reason that we are only able to do the SSH to the instance. But we are not able to view the web page because of the HTTP traffic. So now what we are going to do, we are going to edit the inbound rule, add a rule, select the HTTP traffic. The port is going to be 80 and the source is going to be anywhere IPv4. So right now we'll open up for the IPv4 addresses, all the IPv4 addresses on the internet. Click on Save Rules. Now we have opened up the HTTP port on our security group of an instance, and we'll move back to the browser, refresh the browser, and now we should be able to view the web page. So what we learned in this demo, we learned how to connect to the instance, how to work on the Linux using the Linux commands on the instance, how to create a web page with the help of HTML tags, and what is the importance of security groups and why we should open up the ports on the security groups. Thanks for watching. I would advise the same steps you can practice on your AWS accounts by referring this video.